Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the weekly show with Aditya. A half an hour show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in association with Dusra.net, the number one website. Welcome to another iconic episode, number 121, on the 7th of October 2019. The first test between India and South Africa went exactly as per India's plan. So let's look at the hits and misses from this particular tournament. Running out of options, the gamble to have Rohit Sharma open worked. It worked in such a way that he hit two centuries in both the innings. In short, the team management wanted Rohit Sharma in the team because that is how Virat Kohli likes it. He has someone to counter his aggressive stance in his vice captain. With Prithvi Shaw being suspended due to doping violation and Rahul under scrutiny for not making runs, Rohit Sharma was the last option they had. They didn't trust Shubman Gill enough to make him open and gamble with that player. So they went back to Rohit Sharma and it worked. So this was one of the hits in this particular match. And he, along with Mayank Agarwal, did a decent job in that opening position, which was haunting the team for a long time. Irrespective of where they played, whether it was those flat as a pancake but full of potholes which resembles a typical Indian road, Rohit Sharma excelled. Yes, so that was hit number one. They even call this match a comeback match for Ashwin, though I don't agree with such nomenclatures such as a comeback match. But let's go with it for a while because Ashwin was not part of the playing 11 when India was touring outside India. But since here they had to go with two spinners, it was always going to be one between Kuldeep and Ashwin. So they chose Ashwin over Kuldeep, and even this gamble worked out as Ashwin picked up 8 wickets in the match. So Rohit a hit, Ashwin a hit. As far as Jadeja goes, Jadeja was always going to be a hit because after Hardik Pandya, who is indisposed as of now, Jadeja is the best all-rounder we have in terms of his batting, bowling and fielding talent. But what was the miss in this match? Well, the biggest mistake in this match was choosing Saha over Pant. The reason of choosing Saha over Pant was vague and very outdated. That Saha is technically more superior as a keeper with respect to the keeping technique of Pant on those bouncy and turning Indian tracks. But here we saw Saha drop a couple of catches, a few missed stumpings. Despite the endorsement by the team, he was demoted to number 8 by the team. They sent Jadeja ahead of him in order to accelerate in the first innings. They even set Jadeja ahead of Saha as far as acceleration was concerned. It means they missed Hardik Pandya and Pant as far as scoring quick runs was concerned. This means that Saha will always be demoted if it comes to scoring quick runs, and if Hardik Pandya and Pant are not selected due to fitness and other issues, then Jadeja will be your go-to player to accelerate, as we saw in this match when and where it was needed. So Saha was a miss in this match. In fact, the obsession with the 4 bowler theory is also a miss in this match. But then they don't have any option. Pandya is injured, Vijay Shankar is injured. Everybody from number 1 to number 6 has contributed enough so as to not to be dropped for the next match. So they will continue with this four bowler theory, even if it means an injury is around the corner for one of the four bowlers, especially the fast bowlers in Sharma and Shami. And this means they eventually have to force themselves to bowl either Hanuma Vihari or Rohit Sharma. So the four bowler theory was also a miss if they don't have an adequate fifth bowler. And with the selectors having this careless thought of saying that Pandya should only play 50 overs and 20 overs to prolong his career, then the all-rounders option falls automatically on Jadeja or Ashwin, and in this context Jadeja is the preferred option. But if we need a fifth bowler, who is that option? Is it Hanuma Vihari? Yes, Hanuma Vihari is a good option. In the longer scheme of things, he has to become a more regular bowler. If the likes of Mark Waugh, Carl Hooper, Arvinda De Silva, who were basically bits and pieces bowler who could bowl for the sake of giving other bowlers a rest, but on their own picked up a lot of wickets and they could be respected, then we need Hanuma Vihari to do the job, and for that we need the captain giving him that respect. And we all know when a certain bowler will come and why the four bowler theory, which is proposed by any team and exercised by most teams, will always backfire. In fact, we are lucky that out of the four bowlers, the two in Ashwin and Jadeja are your proper all-rounders, means good fielders, good batters and excellent bowlers. Because if this was not the case, if we had supposed the likes of Kuldeep and Chahal as your two spinners, then things could have been very bad. But now the fact that we have batting till number 8, which includes the wicket keeper, irrespective of whomsoever it may be, either Pant or Saha or somebody else, batting till number 8 is a very good option. Since cricket is the only sport where we can discuss the team composition, which after a team is selected becomes rigid, and there are no rolling substitutes like hockey or cricket or basketball, then we have to look at who are the 11 individuals playing. And for me, 9 out of the 11 individuals should be able to bat. It means that apart from the wicket keeper, 8 out of the 11 individuals should be able to bowl, regardless of whether we give them the moniker part-time, full-time or all-rounders or something else. Because in terms of your irregular and part-timers, I would include the likes of Steve Waugh, Glenn Maxwell, Mark Waugh, Tom Moody, Arvinda De Silva as well. Though a few rigid individuals would take umbrage to the fact that I have called the likes of Arvinda De Silva and others as part-timers. But whether that's the case or not is a matter for another day. Should someone like a Virat Kohli bowl? Yes, he should, irrespective of whether we consider him a part-timer or a full-timer, or whether his action is strange, or whether he is going to bowl because your regular four bowlers need rest. For me, everybody who can bowl, if they are not injured and they are not ashamed of their bowling, they should come and bowl. You never know, this kind of bowling change or strategy might just become a winning strategy and it may pay off. Ashwin and Jadeja, the two spinners in the team right now, are being labeled as the greatest spin duo ever after Harbhajan and Kumble and Harbhajan and Oja and Ashwin and Oja. But when Ashwin and Jadeja first came into the team 8 years ago, they were not considered your test match bowlers. In fact, both were considered your part-time 20 over bowlers, and 8 years since they are now your best spinners to ever be in the team. Since the retirement of Anil Kumble and the discarding of Harbhajan Singh, we keep seeing how 20 overs and 50 overs have made a mockery of these 5-day matches. But if you see what happened yesterday or on Saturday when India needed quick runs, everybody went into the 50 over and 20 over mode. So, in essence, there is no pure format, it's just a thought process that we have of isolating these three formats. The only individual with no significant contribution in this match was none other than Saha. So the logical thing is to do is get Pant back in the team and make number 4 his position, which means that Kohli comes at number 3, Pujara comes at number 5, Rahane at number 6, and Hanuma Vihari at number 7. A perfect batting lineup. Will India rotate their bowlers like Australia did a couple of months ago? I have my doubts that India will be so flexible about giving all the bowlers a chance. The team management will not take that kind of a gamble, because while it was considered rotating bowlers and giving everybody a chance in Australia and also by England commentators, in India it will be given a very negative connotation. We will use the word drop, just like we use the word dropped for Rishabh Pant. So unless somebody is injured in a major fashion, according to me, they will not change the team. They will not go as far as to have 3 fast bowlers and 2 spinners, because the third fast bowler in this case would be Umesh Yadav, and that would mean weakening the batting lineup. So they will go with the option of 4 plus 1 plus 1 means 4 regular bowlers in Ishant, Shami, Jadeja and Ashwin, and then the 5th bowlers being shared between Rohit, Kohli and Hanuma Vihari. And since we are talking about injuries, let's talk about injury to Hardik Pandya. A year ago, I had forewarned that Pandya should not go in the direction of Irfan Pathan, because Irfan Pathan, like Pandya, was a talented all-rounder who was then discarded and dropped because of injuries and the fictional theory of not scoring enough runs. Like Pandya, when Pathan came to the team, he was given the same hype that at last we have found a talented all-rounder years after the retirement of Kapil Dev. But once Pathan was injured, he was slowly shown the exit door, and as runs did not come to him naturally, though he tried his best, his exit became permanent. And now Pandya has fallen in this injury trap, and we don't want a deja vu of another talented all-rounder going down the drain after he has made all the efforts to become a part of the team and contribute in a positive manner. Even the myopic and the outdated thought process by the selectors that Pandya will only play the 50 over matches means we won't have a counter to the likes of Mitchell Marsh and Ben Stokes. Injuries are part and parcel of an athlete's life, but for the selectors to say that he can only play just the 50 over matches will not work for me. So let's hope that the selectors see reason and not get embroiled in their own ego, because they were also discards when they were thrown out of the team, and they have a more wider view of the team selection as far as including the likes of Pandya and others are concerned. Olympic Qualifiers, an interesting tournament, though it is a matter of shame. Why? Because if Indian athletes have to play Olympic qualifiers, to qualify for the Olympics and not get a direct entry after all their efforts over the years, then it shows that how frugally teams are selected and how rigid the selection process is. Well, more matches bode well for the athletes, but the fact that the tag of Olympic qualifiers is attached, it gives a very negative connotation to the preparation for that tournament. The most depressing part is that if an athlete, especially in singles events, is injured, then they will not take part in the qualifiers. And if you don't take part in the qualifiers, then you have no chance of taking part in the main tournament. And that puts the athlete's career behind 4 years. They have to start all over again and wait another 4 years. And we know age is a fickle thing in terms of sports, especially in India. Let's say an athlete is 23 right now, but they get injured and they have to participate in the Olympic qualifier, especially at a singles event, and they fail to do so, means then they have to wait another 4 years to do the same. They have to come back from injury, which can take 6 to 8 months. Then the questions are asked of the athlete whether they are fit enough to come back again. And in sports, we know if an athlete X is injured, then athlete Y is waiting to take their place, and therefore it also sets the athlete's career also by a larger margin, because we start focusing on the new athlete. So if somebody is 24 for the 2020 Olympics, they will be 28 for the 2024 Olympics. And we know once you reach near 30, the attitude towards an athlete changes, especially here, where be it Olympics, academics, or any other profession, we take a person's age and either ruin their career or uplift their career. Just like we have an obsession with youth millennials right now. So either the athlete should get a second chance to take part in the qualifiers, or they should be given a direct entry into the main tournament even if they don't go through the qualifiers. It may be seen as unfair, but we have to understand that the entire concept of qualifiers is unfair. Just because the world bodies want a limited number of athletes and teams to participate because of frivolous reasons like logistical and other constraints, especially the money spent on the stadiums and other logistical areas by the home country which hosts that particular tournament. And then the debate around depression and rising costs also factor in. Such reasons harm the athlete, especially in singles competition, or if you are part of a team and you're injured, then another athlete will take your place. So eventually you are set back by 4 to 5 years. Now the question is taking part in Olympics so important? It's not about taking part in Olympics. It's about being at a world stage to show your talent. And despite the mushrooming of so many tournaments, especially called the World Championships, we still see Olympics as the event which defines and propels an athlete's career despite their performances in other standalone tournament for that particular sport. In sports like football, hockey, and cricket, we have these qualifiers so that we can have best of the teams. But then what about teams that don't qualify? Does it mean that these teams are not good enough because they did not qualify for the qualifiers and also qualified the qualifiers? What is the message we are trying to send? That unless you qualify and win the qualifiers or have a good performance in the qualifiers, you are not good enough as a team to play for the bigger tournaments such as the World Cups or the Asian tournaments, especially which take place in football. It is demoralizing. But having lesser team means bigger matches, greater competitions. so we go along with it, and that's the accepted norm. This ends part 1 of this episode. Stay tuned for part 2. Welcome to part 2 of episode number 121. Obesity, sedentary lifestyles are now part of our daily vocabulary. We link obesity to not doing any kind of exercise and eating a lot of sugars and salty food, and then we introduce this fancy term called lifestyle diseases, which are the NCBs, the non-communicable diseases like obesity, depression, and so on and so forth. Then it means that everybody on this planet is obese because their profession is such that it becomes sedentary, means we are a desk job kind of an individual. Is there any profession which does not have the use of computers today? No, every profession uses it. But contrastingly, this does not make an earlier generation fitter. Why? Because even if computers were not present 50 years ago, we had another equipment called typewriter. This means authors are the most laziest persons because they are sitting on their typewriters or using their notebooks on their desks or on their beds and writing. But this is a very ironical situation. In one way, we are encouraging people to use computers and digital gadgets so that they can become better and more productive. On the other hand, we are blaming these very devices for one's obesity and lifestyle diseases. Now, such kind of a double standard is perplexing for me. For example, if we don't use gadgets for information and we rely on traditional methods of information dissemination and acquiring information, then we will be labeled as dinosaurs. But if we use gadgets and other similar electronic devices, then we will be given the label of being lazy, obese, not fit enough, not enough movement, and a generation which has acquired lifestyle diseases. So television anchors who are seated all the time, radio show hosts who are seated all the time will be called obese, or those who are suffering from lifestyle diseases. But let's hop back to 50 years ago. There were no computers, but there were typewriters. And what is the difference between a computer and a typewriter? A computer is a typewriter with a screen. Apart from that, its usage is similar. So if anyone says that authors and writers come in the category of being obese and lazy, I will not agree with them. There may not be too much of a physical movement, but our intellectual and our cognitive development is at an all-time high. Especially those who understand the effort made to write a book or screenplays. Writing these is as much as hard work as maybe creating an app. But then authoring is a profession which no one will take it voluntarily. It will be only when we have exhausted all other options, which means writing has now become a retiree's profession. And of course, there is the misconception that writing cannot be a full-time profession, means authoring. And by authoring, I mean writing screenplays or novels, short story, etc. Another unjustified fear is that will your writing be accepted? Will it be given that respect that it will turn into a book someday? Or if you are writing a screenplay, will this turn into a potential TV show or a movie. We don't know. It may or it may not happen. Then another fear is that as an author or a writer, it doesn't really convert into a full-time profession, or it is not under the label of job and employment, unfortunately, as there is no steady income. Unless, of course, you are a writer who has been in this profession for decades, that you are often called as a keynote speak or as judges in a writing competition. But even for that, you have to build your reputation, and as a writer, one's reputation takes time. But there is a difference between books and application. Irrespective of when the book was written, it will always remain contemporary for that particular generation or that particular era. The book War and Peace, written over 100 years ago by Leo Tolstoy, and other books by him are of such universal importance that even now they have some contemporary importance. Even the book Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, the storyline, the characters, they are giving such value that it will remain a force even 100 years from now. The plays by Shakespeare, Coleridge, their poems may not have been taken seriously when they wrote it at that time, but 500 years from when they wrote, it's still a rage now. Epics such as Mahabharata, Ramayana, Iliad, Odyssey, as well as Paradise Lost, if you interpret these books as far as the contemporary times are concerned, we will understand that so much was common in an era which is often considered mythological, or for some individuals, it is the history of a particular nation. So books, screenplays, TV shows will always remain contemporary, but applications will not. And I will give you a few examples. Before the likes of WhatsApp and Facebook took over as chat messengers, we had Orkut, Google Talk, as well as Yahoo Messenger. But once Facebook and Instagram and these applications became a rage, they had to shut down Yahoo Messenger and they got rid of Orkut, because Orkut was in the similar vein as Facebook, but it never got going for whatever reasons. And as new and new applications come, like we have TikTok and so many other applications, even a Facebook, WhatsApp may become obsolete, but a book, on the other hand, will never become obsolete. It will become a chronicle of history, something to be read to understand as to how the past was seen. Be it R.K. Narayan's Malgudi Days, Huckleberry Finn, Hard Times, Great Expectations, Sons and Lovers by D.H. Lawrence, which touched a very sensitive topic. We continue to interpret books even in contemporary times, and even maybe 500 years from now, a book written today which may not get the respect and its place in the sun, maybe 500 years from now, it will become a showpiece of what happened in today's times. To understand, we may be reading book through the physical copies or through the e-books or whatever method. The idea of a book and understanding the characters and the generations through the book will never go away. While applications, well, newer applications will come every few months, like it happens with iPhones. So much so that an iPhone which came 2 years ago, we now feel it is obsolete. So this means that a writer, especially someone who is independent and is not working for an organization, which means there is no income and all those factors, should they be given the same respect as individuals who work as full-time in companies, especially the app developers? Yes, they should. If X is a writer, should it be seen as an employment and a job? Yes, it should. We cannot close the idea of employment as well as a job in a box, which means that you have to work for someone or you are the founder of a startup. We cannot confine the idea of a job and employment in such narrow box, because there is no nobler profession than being a writer. And by writer I mean a poet, a screenplay writer, a novel writer, a short story writer, even the one who writes the scripts for the prime ministers as well as the presidents. And why do books become so important? Because the likes of prime ministers and presidents release book to seal their legacy, so that they become part of history and they are talked about even 100 years from today. So eventually, by design or default, by planning or just a fluke, everybody becomes a writer. Whether they write self-help books, whether they write academic books, or whether they write novels, short stories, or screenplays. Because you never know, tomorrow WhatsApp and Twitter as well as Facebook may become obsolete as newer applications may crop up, and these newer applications which crop up today may become obsolete 5 years from today. So while applications are important, their developers should be given the respect, but we need to understand that they are not going to be there forever. Take the example of Jules Verne. He wrote about the potential travel to moon 100 years before even the actual incident happened. It may have not been scientifically accurate. Well, that is a factor when writers write. They don't consider accuracy in their books, but the vision to have such an idea, to think that one day we may go to the extent of colonizing the moon and making it our home. The very idea of having such an idea is often visionary, and such individuals should be respected. And that is why books will always remain contemporary. Eventually, it's the chronicle of one's experience and creativity. People of different professions turn to writing to books as to vent out their anger, to divulge secrets if they were part of an organization. And as humans, we love such sensational stuff. It could be part fiction and part facts. That's for us to interpret. Are you a lark or an owl? Because such terms are very important in terms of one's productivity. Sleep is very important for the human body. Just like we switch off our computers to give them rest, our body switches off during sleep. Though it is strange that not sleeping leads to obesity, though according to me, sleep is nothing more than being sedentary and lazy. Why are we so rigid about terms such as lark or an owl? Because lark defines early risers and owl define people who rise a little late. For example, larks rise at 6 a.m. and the owls rise at 10 a.m. Though I am neither a lark or an owl, for me there is no particular time for being productive. But I am not the kind of individual who is woken up till 2 a.m. also. For me, the surrounding environment becomes an important part of my productivity. So if at 7 a.m. it is quiet and I can do my work, I'll do it. And even if the quietness comes around 7 p.m., then I'll do my work then as well. We keep using this word that we should get more hours of sleep. But what do we mean by that? For me, sleep is relative. But then we have given our body such a timetable that we are used to certain hours of sleep. When it's daylight, I would prefer not to sleep. And once it becomes dark, then your body automatically calls for that sleep and doesn't want to work or be productive. In a book, an expert proposes that flexi working would help to level the playing field. It could boost workplace productivity and employees' health and happiness. This is said by Geddes in the book Chasing the Sun. Such an approach could create a more harmonious and morally sound workplace. Once again, that depends on what you do, and therefore, the idea of sleep is relative. This ends part 2 of this episode. This brings to an end episode number 121 on the 7th of October 2019. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I will see you in the next episode on Wednesday on the 9th of October. So till Wednesday, I bid you a goodbye and I will see you soon. Please send your valuable suggestions through your comments and audio recording to the email ID adityatherewriter@gmail.com. You can also like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and Facebook page, and stay tuned for the next episode.